notes on all the new techniques post-production that we're going to do today. Let's see here. Let me move my mouse and keyboard over so I can work. So some of the things that we need to do today, now that our rough cut is done, right? I've got my timing all correct. My shots are in order, ins and outs of where I want them. Now we can start to add titles and music and effects and transitions and things like that. So we'll start with titles, since that's the video we just watched. When you're doing a rough cut, you're working in the editing workspace, right? It's on editing. But when you want to build a title, we want to change our workspace. These are different workspaces up here. And so I'm going to click Graphics, which is the one I'm going to use whenever I'm building titles. It's going to change the layout of my windows, and it adds this new window over here, the Essential Graphics window. That's going to be where all my controls for my titles are. So now I'm going to look at where I want my title to actually be. Like, do I want the title on this shot? Do I want the title on that shot? Do I want the title at the beginning? Do I want the title, for credits all the way at the end? We're going to build one right here on this very first shot. So we're just going to click the Type Tool T, right? It's kind of with the arrow tool and the razor blade tool and all those other tools. Click T, click here in the screen, and you see now I've got all my text controls, and I've got a little tiny red box there. If I start to type the chase, right, I've got it, I got my words, and now I can start to adjust the font and the color and all those things he talked about. So the first thing he talked about was the font style, right? We want to choose a font that's big, bold, and easy to read. So here, the default font is some boring, basic font, right? Book in Antiqua, lame, right? So I'm going to choose a new font, right? I've got a ton in my list. Maybe something, this one's kind of cool. That might work. I don't know. Maybe. ESP. Let's see what other options we have. Oh, Goonies. There we go, Goonies. I like that. One thing that I always do when I'm choosing fonts is once I think I've got the font, the size, and the style I like, I kind of like step back from my computer a half step and squint my eyes and kind of blur my vision a little bit. And if I can still read it, then I know it's a good font choice, right? Because you have to think, if you're at the Warriors, right, there's someone sitting in the last row, really far away from the Jumbotron, can they still read it? People watch stuff on phones where your font is literally going to be like, a centimeter wide, right? Can they still read that? Some people sitting in the back row of the class, far from the projector, can they still read it? So I squint, I blur my vision. Are the forms of the letters still readable, right? If you choose something like this, and I squint, right, it kind of turns into nonsense, right? Weird rectangles, right? And that's probably not a great choice for a font for my title. And if you can't find something in the list of fonts, which it will probably not be the greatest selection because the computers were wiped over summer and they lost all the cool fonts, a great resource that I always recommend to people is go online and go to DaFont, D-A-F-O-N-T, dafont.com, and they have all these fonts categorized for you. Cartoon, comic, old school, groovy, Western, Russian, initials, typewriter, medieval, sci-fi, right? So you choose a font that works for you, right? Let's look through horror. There we go. Let's go to horror fonts, right? Ooh, I like Night of Terror. Let's download that one, right? Download the zip file. You open that sucker up. It adds the TTF file, right? This is a document. These are some images that show you examples of the true type font file. Double click that bad boy. It'll open up something like this. You hit install. And now you've got a new font that you can choose in Premiere. The only caveat to that is that it won't show up in the list until you restart Premiere. So, if you find you choose a font, just close Premiere down, boot it back up, and the font will be in the list. It only searches for fonts as Premiere loads. So that's why it won't be in the list right now. But it is very nice to be able to choose your font. So we've chosen a font that is bold. That's good. Second thing we got to do is we got to choose a color, right? If I put this up here on the white sky, it's not such a great contrast, right? So I'm going to choose, click in this box, and I can choose any color of the rainbow I want, and amount of saturation, any shade or tint. The guys gave you some colors to avoid. He doesn't mean like really avoid red. What he means is avoid like pure red. If I push this thing all the way to the top, and I take this all the way to the corner, I'm basically telling the computer to use like pure red, 255 parts red, which is the max brightness of a pixel, 0 parts green, 0 parts blue, and you see it even gives you a little warning, and it's just going to make your display not happy with you, especially if you're using an old TV like that on the wall. It's really going to look bad. On a phone or a regular flat screen TV, it'll probably look okay, but we just want to, all you got to do is back this thing off that much. 252 instead of 255, and 4 and 4 instead of 0. Still looks awfully, awfully red, but your displays are going to be much happier with you. Same thing goes for like white. Don't choose like full white, 255, 255, 255. Just squeeze it off just a little bit up. It still looks really, really white, but it's just going to make your displays that much happier. And if for whatever reason you want to use the official Deer Valley teal, you can come down here into the hex code, and you can type in the number 0084, and then the letter A, and there you go. Now we have Deer Valley teal for the chase. It's still a little bit low contrast. I can add a shadow by checking the shadow box. And that gives me even more options, right? How dark do I want this shadow to be? The angle of the shadow, distance of the shadow, right? Like my shadow's like that. How thick, and then how soft, right? You want it really blurry, really sharp. And then if you want to outline, those are called strokes. So I can add a stroke, and I can adjust the thickness of the stroke, and I can adjust the thinness. Don't move, that's terrible, don't do that. Let's go with pink and teal baller. All right, there we go. So that looks good. So now I've got good font style, I got good colors, I got a shadow and outline. And the last thing he said was to templatize. So it took me a little bit of time to choose the font and the size and the color and the thing and the thing. And what if I have to make 20 titles, right? Ugh. So what we can do is right up here, master styles, create a new master style. Pink and teal Goonies. There we go. And now if I go and I'm going to build another title, and I change my font style, and I change my colors, and I get rid of the shadow and the outline, and I shrink it, or I rotate it, or whatever, right? And then I'm like, nope, you know what, I like the other one better. Just go back to pink and teal Goonies, and it'll just change everything back. I mean, I guess the rotation didn't change, but everything else changed, right? The size and the shape and the colors and the shadow. So it's a good way to save, so that maybe your opening credit and your credits at the end look the same, have a similar look and vibe to them. It's nice to just be able to save it. So now you see that basically, it's once I built the title, it's added this new piece on my timeline down here, and that is the title. So if I move it away, right, it's gone. Now it's over here in this part of the movie. Come on, catch up, computer. I believe in you. There it is. All right, now it's over here. Or maybe I just want my title to be kind of by itself at the beginning and not on footage. So I'll just put it down like that, and now it's just floating on black, which is kind of boring. I try to tell people, find an image or even just a color to put behind it instead of black. You can find stuff on Google Maps or Google Images, YouTube, color backgrounds, and you can slap stuff back there to help it out. Or in the future, you can plan a shot to put your title on top of, right? If I just put my title on top of something else, it's on top of something else. And then if you want your title to roll, just click on it, and you can make it roll, and now it'll. If I double click on it, then it comes back. If I double click on it in the window here, it gives all my title controls. But if I just click on it down here in the editing window, then it gives me options for roll and stuff like that. Well, the other thing you can do is like auto center it, right? Get it right in the middle of the page if you want. So if I put it over here, like, boop, boop, there we go, right? Rotate it, transparency. You got all sorts of crazy things you can do with your titles. Okay. So the second thing that we want to work on, once we got our titles done and credits, you guys are going to build credits as well, is start thinking about what transitions you want to put on your clips. The other day we watched a types of cuts video. And they talked about dissolves and fades and and wipes and irises. And to do that, we're going to go to the effects palette. So I'm going to click effects up here. That changes this window here on the right to show my effects, and it changes my preview window into an effects controls window. So if I want to add some transitions, I can open up the video transitions folder here, and it shows even more folders, right? I've got a folder of dissolves, I've got a folder of irises, I've got a folder of wipes. And let's say that I want this first shot to cross dissolve into the second shot. Right now it's just a hard cut. Boom, it just changes. But if I open up dissolves and grab cross dissolve, click it and hold it, right? It turns into that fist holding it, so dragging. And when I come down here to where the two shots touch, you see it changes color. So if I drop it there, now my shot will cross dissolve between the two, right? It's no longer a hard cut. If I want to get rid of it, I can just click the word cross dissolve and push delete, and it goes back to a hard cut. Some people were having trouble today, right? If you click it and you drag it and you try to put it in the middle of a shot, see, nothing happens. It has to go where the shots touch. Nothing to do here. It's got to go where they touch. Or some people are trying to put it down on the audio tracks. It tells you, no, you can't cross dissolve audio. It's a visual thing, right? It's a visual video transition. So it's got to go up here. So we can drop that there. And you can also lengthen or shorten your dissolve. So if I pull the edge of it out, it gets longer, and now I have a really, really slow cross dissolve. Or I can shorten it and make it really, really fast, right? A tenth of a second. That, right? The default length is 1 second, so basically a half a second on each side to make 1 second. Okay. You've got tons of transitions to work with, right? Dip to black makes the image go black and then come back. Dip to white basically does the opposite. We go to white and then come back, like that. Some, like wipe, you can actually make some adjustments to, right? So here's the basic wipe. It's a vertical wipe like that. But if I click wipe, you see my effect controls window gives me some controls. Maybe I want the wipe to go diagonal from one corner to another, right? Or do I want that wipe to go up from the bottom? So I click this arrow, and now the wipe goes up from the bottom or down from the top, right? If I click down from the top, now it goes down from the top. So effect controls window gives you some controls on how things work. All right. So you can, and then there's some transitions that are like just completely like ridiculous, like 1990s home video. Like I don't think I've ever seen anyone use random blocks. Like you know, they just kind of have a very cheap zigzag blocks. I don't know. That's not Tarantino's not using that one. You know. So let's blow that one out. But be my guest. If you want to use them, hey, who am I? No judgments. No judgments. So I got some transitions on there now. Now let's say I want to add some video effects. So I close my video transitions folder. I go to video effects. You can open that up. There's a lot of effects. And you can spend some time guessing and checking in here, which is fine. If you have an effect that, or kind of an idea in your head you want to make real, talk to me. I can say like, oh, maybe this one will work for you. Maybe that one will work for you. Because there's so many, it's kind of hard to just kind of guess and find the one you need. So, you know, some of them are really, really easy. Like if I put on stylize, solarize, and drop it on a clip, like right away you see that it changes the look of the clip. There are some, like here's solarize here in my effect controls. I can adjust how much it works. If I don't want it, I click solarize right there and delete it. Basically, once you click and drag that effect, you see it kind of highlights the clip in a box. So I drop it. Now this effect here didn't do anything when I added it because it's waiting for me to make some adjustments in the effect controls. Once I push up saturation or change the hue, now I've got this weird kind of predator alien vision for my stalker's point of view shot. Right, so some people are like, I added the effect and it didn't do anything. Well, it's because you have to change some of the parameters for the effect to actually do anything for it to work. Again, if you don't like it, you click the name of the effect, color balance, push delete, and it goes away. I don't know. there's all sorts of crazy ones. Like you could like distort's got some pretty wild ones. Where's distort at? Here we go. Distort, like turbulent displace. Drop that on there, right? And then the amount of turbulence I want to give it, and the size of the turbulence I want to give it, and the complexity. Right? You can get insane with all this stuff, and then you can animate that so that it wiggles as it plays with the evolution. Looks like molten, I don't know what. I mean, there's tons. And if you can't find something you like, the nice thing about Premiere is there's people making more effects and transitions online, and you can download them and add them as plugins. So some I don't know if you guys saw the tennis recap today, had these kind of crazy, bulgy, chromatic transitions in the tennis recap. Those aren't in Premiere. The editors from GTD, they went out and found them online, downloaded them, added them to Premiere, and then they have more to choose from. Okay, so that's always something you can do as well. I'm going to add my kind of crazy color back to that because I like that. I like my wild color. All right, so those are video effects. The last part of the puzzle is I did tell you guys to bring in music on thumb drives, and I brought, I'm tangled. I brought my music on my thumb drive, and the process is basically the same as when you're done shooting, right? We plug the memory card in the computer from the camera, or we plug the thumb drive into the computer. It gives us the ding sound, and we should have maybe my thumb drive. There she is, right? So here's my thumb drive, and here are the songs I brought. So I'm going to right-click and copy them, just like we do with the footage on the memory cards. I hit copy, then we go to the video drive, we go to period 7, we go to the chase, we make a new folder. Ooh, there's already a folder in here called music. I'm ahead of the curve. Well, I'm going to delete that one so we do it right. Yep, you guys are going to make a folder called music, just the same way you make a period 1 or a day 1 and a day 2 folder. Go inside that. Paste those in so they come off of your thumb drive onto the computer for safekeeping. Once you've done that, you can pull your thumb drive out, put it back in your backpack so it doesn't get lost, and then you can take that music folder, drag it, drop it into Premiere, and we'll go back to our editing workspace, and we'll open up music, and I want this track here, so it goes into my preview window. You can see that this part of the song here is quiet, quiet-ish, once I turn my stereo down. Right about there's good. But you can see that the music's going to get loud in just a little bit, right? It's going to fill up, the beat's going to drop, and it's going to hit. So in my preview window, I can still set ins and outs. So here goes. Right there, I set my in. I want that beat to be my very first thing, and then I'll set it out. The only difference with music in your preview window is you can't click and drag the image, which is dumb. You should totally be able to. They make you click and drag on this little white spiky waveform icon here that says drag audio only. So I'm going to drag that thing down to my timeline, and I bring my hunk of music. Now, when I do that, make sure that you add it onto another layer of audio, right? Down here on audio 2 or 3. Don't drop it on 1, because if I drop it here, I just deleted, right, Arthur? I just deleted all of my natural sound. That's bad, right? We need that sound. We need the footsteps. We need the shaking of the leaves. We need the guy screaming, whatever. So we can't put it there. So I'm going to undo that, right? I make sure that I put it down on track 2 or 3. Now what I'm going to do is I want that beat to drop right when the books hit. So I'm going to slap that there and then put that there, and that should be right. Let's see. A little bit off. A little bit off. I want to fix that. Right there, so I need to back up 5 frames. There we go. 5 frames makes all the difference sometimes, right? The timing feels so much better now. So, good. So now it's doing its thing, the music's playing, my guy's walking, right? And then right at that moment when we go to stock revision, right here, I don't want the Gambino track anymore, so I'm going to have it end. And I'm going to grab a different track that I brought. Is it this one? No. This one. Right, this kind of scary track here. Oh! I like this song because the composer's name is Carl Orff, and it's like a weird inverse of me, Kyle Orff, Carl Orff. So we're going to go with that track. We're going to drop that in right here. There we go. So he's going to be walking. So pretty good, but that transition from the Gambino song to this song is awfully harsh, right? It just kind of like switches. So if we go back to our effects and we go to audio transitions, right? The same way there's video transitions across the solves, there's audio transitions. So I'm going to open up Crossfade. There's really only 3. I like constant power, although I can't really hear a difference between them at all. I'm going to zoom in here, so I hit it, grab this, drop it on my 2 tracks, so it bridges between the 2. I always like to make my audio fades a little longer. Roll it. One song will fade out, the next one fades in. Feels a lot better. Same thing with the end, right? If this is like playing during my credits, I'm going to have this fade out at the end so that it doesn't just kind of die, right? Lets my audience down, lets them off and ride a little easier, right? That then never just kind of snaps out of existence. Now, we have this moment here, right, where he says something, but it's kind of obscured by the music, right? The music and his dialogue are kind of fighting at that moment. So what I want to do is I want to turn down my music. So the way to do that is, and if we look, you can see that the Gambino track is much louder than the O Fortuna track just by the spikes being bigger. Also, the other way you can tell is, look at the levels are pretty much just pegged up at 0. The Fortuna track is better. It has variation, right? It's bouncing, which is what we want, right? We want to have our audio levels kind of on the move. If your audio is ever just pegged up at 0, then it's too loud. And you're going to overload speakers, and it's not going to work. So I'm going to turn down the Gambino track a little bit. So I'm going to right-click on the track. You get a lot of options, but the one we're looking for is audio gain. Right? Gain is a measure of loudness. So I'm going to click audio gain, and I'm going to adjust the gain by, but I can go negative values or I can go positive values, right? Negative or positive. So I'm just going to go like -10. I like to work in like steps of like 5 to 10, test it. Still not quite enough? Okay, go 5 more. Still not quite enough? Go 5 more. Right, but -10 is usually a good starting point for me. You see the little spikes now are about the same height as O Fortuna. Right, now we're kind of bouncing here in that kind of 75% range. And that way we have some room to grow. What was I going to say? Yeah, make sure that you're kind of bouncing around here, never pegged out. Alright, so now we're going to come over here to where he says his line of dialogue. Right there. So what I want to do is I want to turn down O Fortuna just at that moment. If I right-click and hit audio gain, it's going to turn down the entire clip, right? But this is where my razor blade tool comes in really handy. I can like click right here and click right here, which is where he says his line, and that way I can just turn down just this little section, right? I can audio gain that down by that much. I can put my cross dissolves for audio on both sides, and now I have this. Right? Just bring the music down for that 1 second. That way I can keep it loud in the rest of the part, but it becomes background music when he's delivering his line of dialogue. Right? One thing I tell people all the time is don't be editing and adjusting the volume on your speakers, because no one sits and watches TV and adjusts the volume every 5 seconds, right? Leave your speakers alone, and if something's too loud, audio gain it down. If something's too quiet, audio gain it up, right? But there is a limit to how far you can push things with audio gain up, right? If I try to audio gain his dialogue up, and I'm like, let's go plus 30, right, it's going to sound like this. Right? And that's still good, right? You're basically overloading the speakers. The speakers only have so much that the little speaker membrane can move and push the air. If you go too loud, it just pushes and it just turns into nothing, right? So I'm going to go back, I'm going to audio gain that, set the gain back to its original value of 0. I mean, it's pretty good. I don't think this one really needs to be gained up at all. You can see there's some good spikes here in his timeline, right? His dialogue is nice and spiky. If dialogue is like that, it's usually too quiet, but this is good and spiky. So as long as I turn down O Fortuna, we should be able to hear him nicely when he speaks. Right? So don't adjust your speakers, adjust your clips in Premiere to get what you need. Right? And yeah, so we've got titles, we're going to have credits. I neglected to mention, you can also add cross-dissolves and wipes and all that stuff to titles. They're just the same like anything else, right? I could add a iris cross to my title, so it'll do a crazy, like that, it kind of wipes out kind of a strange way. Or you could add a cross-dissolve, or I like to add, put slides to my titles sometimes are kind of nice. That way they literally slide off the screen. No, that's not the one I want. I think I want push. Push is the one I want. There we go. There it goes, right? So you can add things like that to titles or footage, doesn't matter. Got titles, got credits, got transitions, got video effects, got music, got audio transitions, all the good stuff. Now you see why having a rough cut done is so important. If I go and I move where that line of dialogue is, or move where my shot is, now I also have to adjust all of the audio work I did of where the music sounded better and the cross-dissolve there, and maybe the transitions have to change, right? And it becomes a whole thing. So really work to get your rough cut done first, and then start adding all the pieces. All right? So we've got about an hour to add all our polish cut pieces. Ask me for help. Ask each other. I'm going to rotate editors about every 15 minutes or so. That way everybody gets a chance to practice these skills. Make sure your rough cut is done first, then begin adding all the extras.